and welcome to episode 155 of the Pitcher or the Hitter, the podcast by the M-SABR Dynasty League for the M-SABR Dynasty League. I am Cam,
I'm Sahil.
and the Reds are hitting 210 as a team, and they did not score a single run in the first 8 innings of any of their 3 games against the Orioles.
Yeah, God, that was brutal. I did chat you on Friday afternoon. I was like, it's a shame that there's a rain delay going on right now because we're just delaying the Orioles sweeping the Reds, and that came very true. I was very pleased about that, but love to see it.
Yeah, I mean the starting pitching was very good. They just Andrew Abbott had a fantastic start. Hunter Green looked fantastic, but they really, and I was thinking earlier in the year, like they were beating up on Texas and Philly. I was like, this is a very good team. They're hitting the ball very well against very good teams. And just this past week, they very suddenly cannot hit.
Hey man, Baltimore's good. I mean, they're dominant. Um,
And they avoided Corbin Burns too.
I know it was literally that. That was the funniest part. You got Cole Irvin on Friday, who is actually pitching like our best pitcher right now. John Means in his first start back on Saturday was dominant, and Greg probably doesn't listen to this, but this was his best start since his no hitter against the Mariners, which today is actually the anniversary of his no hitter against the Mariners.
Hmm.
So congratulations, John Means, on that. And then today was Dean Kramer. So. Um,
Yeah, rough go of it, but big pitching all around the league this week, I gotta say. I mean, we have a new anti-record in on base percentage. Um, Through Friday, 6 of 12 teams had a below 300 on base percentage, and I think only five, so still 5 teams finished below 300, but it was uh big pitching week across the league, both real life and fantasy.
Yeah, this is about the worst hitting week I can remember in recent memory. And like, is it the weather? Like, I don't know. It was pretty rainy and crappy across a good chunk of the country, but um, oh boy. Everybody except the A's apparently, because a lineup with Abraham Toro batting third put up 20 runs, although it was against the Marlins, so it doesn't really count.
Yeah, against the Marlins, all their pitchers are hurt.
And they
Well,
just
yeah,
Orion.
yeah, man. Enterprise, meanwhile, 4 for 4 in his first game with the Padres. But you know, the Marlins got some head back, so
They
they
did get
get
that
they
back.
get their wins where they. I take their wins where they get them.
Can I just say, poor Marlins fans though, like their GM, like after making the playoffs last year, already basically conceded they're not going to make the playoffs this year. Like he came out and said that. He said that on May 4th. Like, dude, that's awful.
Yeah, especially being a team that made the playoffs last year. Um, I don't know. It sucks for Marlins fans.
Is there anything worse than being a Marlins fan?
Um, at least the Marlins have made the playoffs recently.
That is true. I don't even remember the last time the Reds made the playoffs. What, 20?
Last time they made a real playoffs was 2013.
Oh, that's right. They made it in 2020. It's
Well,
not
so do the Marlins.
okay. So yeah, okay. There's fine.
And anyway, enough about real baseball. We got some fake baseball to talk about. And in this low scoring week, do we want to start out? Is there anything we want to talk about before we dive into the matchups?
Not really. No trades went down this week. There was an interesting discussion as to whether Giancarlo Stanton would be traded to EBO, but that never really happened.
Yeah, I was ready to pick up Giancarlo Stanton, trade him to EBO for a future third. And Zane kind of stopped responding. But it's funny because I was fully prepared to cut Jared Kelenic. That was going to be the corresponding move, swear to God.
Oh no. Zane, you.
Hand to God, cutting Jared Kelenic was going to be the corresponding move because he wasn't going to be playing tonight. And um and I wasn't sure Bone was going to be playing tonight. It turns out he did. And he doubled, which is nice. But
Why is Kellenic still on your roster?
well, I noticed he's been in my lineup 3 times all season and not since week 3. But he had a 5-game hitting streak recently, and he's Jared Kelenic
Oh,
still.
congrats. He had a 5 game hitting streak. Yeah. He and his 0 home runs, his 33.3% K rate, and the 435 BABIP propping up his 333 OBP.
Well, the reason that Jared Kelenic still on my roster is because Zane didn't get back to me about Stanton.
My God, you're gonna the day you cut him is gonna be one of the most beautiful days in league history.
Well, maybe he'll be gone by the time this episode goes up.
It would honestly not shock me at this point. Enough about Jarred
Uh,
Kelenic.
Yet Zane wanted to pick up Stanton for Sunday's game. He had used his ads, so he wanted someone who had ads to give to add Stanton and trade him to him, which is kind of brilliant. And I was prepared to do that. I only used 2 ads all week, and one of them was for Chris Bryant. Um, but yeah, ended up not happening here, and Stanton ended up um, going 1 for 4 on Sunday. And Zane, it was okay, and he'll be able to pick him up this coming week.
Yeah, yeah. I don't really get it, but yeah. Enjoy Gonk. Want to talk about the matchups?
Yeah, let's do it. There are 6 matchups here. Very funny that there's now 2 teams named after players that are no longer on that roster. Um, I wonder if Eric's gonna ever change his team name. But do we want to talk about your matchup here first?
Yeah. This was a finals rematch. It it kind of lived up to the hype. In the sense that it was close, but neither team played amazing. I will, before I dive into this, like I won 7-4-1. But I want to give a shout out to Jake. He was leading pretty much all week. And part of my strategy was just like, okay, like he has like 3 good healthy starters. Or he had 4, but Evaldi got hurt during the week. And I was like, okay, like one of these starters is just gonna shit the bed, and that's what I'm gonna take ERA and whip. Um, and it basically took all week for that to happen. Tobias Myers didn't have the game on Saturday, and that kind of put me back into whip discussion, which is one of the categories I ultimately flipped. But like Jake used all 8 ads and managed this matchup about as well as he could have. It was genuinely an impressive job. Um, he had 2 issues though. It was one, he didn't hit, and 2, the margin of error was so slim because his team is so unhealthy at this point. I mean, there's just so many IL players. He's rostering 2 IL players on his bench that he just wasn't able to get it to work out. That being said, he was leading pretty much the entire week up until the like 4 o'clock games on Sunday. And then what ended up happening was I got big strikeout days from some relievers, and I had 4 starters going today. He only had 1. And that ultimately is what kind of handed it to me. I won 5 of the 6 offensive categories. I won 2 of the pitching categories. We tied holds, but not our best hitting week for either of us, but definitely good pitching weeks by both teams. And I'm just happy to come out with a win here. A hard fought matchup, and I advanced to 4-1-1.
Yeah, you do. Pretty solid week for your team. whereas Jake pitched fantastically but could not hit for his life. He was right in it though. Um, with pitching performances, he really streamed the hell out of this week. Ben Lively made a quality start for him somehow. Had a good performance from Cooper Criswell, although only in 4 innings. Simeon Woods Richardson uh, is apparently pitching, and he gave up a lot of hits, but only 2 runs or only 1 run in 3 2/3 innings, so lowering the ERA. Or actually, that raised his ERA. Um,
Which, by the way, he did set his ERA record this week. And it was kind of wild. He actually had lost it temporarily when Jose Alvarado gave up a home run in the very last game of the week, but then he retired the last two, so he just barely set his ERA record.
that's insane. You had one of the better offensive weeks of any team this week, which is crazy considering you hit 5 home runs. Um, but I mean, good weeks from Adley. Good week for Trey Turner. Stole 3 bases.
Harding
Um,
hit his hamstring.
yeah, before hurting his hamstring. How's he looking?
6 weeks. And it was wild too. So if nobody saw it, there was the unique high of seeing him score from second on a wild pitch, which I'm not sure if I've ever seen before. But while running home, that's when he messed up his hamstring and left the game. So looks like a 6 week injury, um, which is a bummer. He's been I was reading something where his last 81 games, he's basically been like an MVP candidate. If you take like last 81 between this season and last year, but yeah, it's a bummer. Thankfully my backup shortstop is Mookie Betts, but yeah, I'm gonna miss Trey Turner.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna give your matchup MVP to Nolan Arenado, who I think had the best week of anyone in your lineup. 462 on base. He drove in 6 of your 38 runs, hit 1 of your 5 homers, had a few doubles and a few runs there to kind of add on to it. You had a pretty good pitching week from Max Fried as well, although he did um, uh, yeah, I think he Darvished right on Sunday.
No, so in the 6th inning, he gave up a 2 run home run to Teoscar Hernandez. So he ended up going 6 innings or 6 innings, 4 earned, and then he pitched an extra inning. So 7 innings, 4 earned after 6 no-hit innings to begin the week against the Mariners. Yeah, I think if he had gotten a quality start there, it would have been player of the week worthy. But yeah, that was kind of rough the way it ended.
Yeah, but overall, you got a big 7-4-1 win over Jake, and you are now, um, right in that 4-1-1 spot, tied for second place.
Tied
Although,
for Oh no, tied for first place.
oh, that's right, Andrew lost.
Yeah, because of the next matchup we'll talk about here in a second. It is me and Anthony atop the standings at 4-1-1, but he is technically in first because he has a head-to-head win over me in week one. But we play each other next week, so it's a battle of undefeated, or no,
Battle of
battle of first place.
Battle of first place. Yeah,
Which is the
no,
second
very.
time Anthony's had a battle of first place this year because him and Andrew were both the last two undefeateds and they played a battle of first places. So a very nice season for Anthony so far. We'll get into that in a minute, but I want to talk about Andrew's matchup unless you have anything else to say about
No, let's
it.
talk about it. I don't know how Erik did it. He probably doesn't know how he did it either. It's not like his Sunday was particularly great, and it's not like it's just Eric's or Andrew's pitchers all blew up on Sunday, particularly Alexis Diaz in a non-save situation, um, and really uh cost him the matchup and gave Erik a much needed win to improve to 3-2-1.
Well, so I'll lay it out here. Erik going into the weekend had 4 home runs and 20 RBIs. He had 8 home runs and 23 RBIs in 2 days.
Man.
Flipped the offensive categories as well as he had see 12 plus 9. He had 21 runs on Saturday and Sunday after having 25 the other 5 days. And then he had 4 plus 1. He had 5 doubles over the weekend as well. So that certainly flips some stuff. And what's wild too is he left a 4 steal game. You heard that right. A 4 steal game from Jose Caballero on his bench. Jose Caballero did not even get a hit uh, on Sunday, but he stole 4 bases. Those 4 bases would have flipped stolen bases, but Erik did not need it and was still able to win without that. I think that is pretty wild.
Yeah, that
It
could
looked
have could have
like
been costly.
it looked like Andrew had it in the bag most of the week. It was like I think like 9-2-1 at one point or like 10-2. Like I kind of looked at that matchup in passing and just kind of been like, all right, like Andrew's gonna clock him. We're gonna have this whole discussion on the podcast. It's like, hey, is like what's going on with Erik's team? They're 2-3-1. Like, how do we feel about them? And Jesus Christ, he turned it around. So good for Erik. Just wow. Break this down some more here. Let's look at some individual players
Yeah,
here.
let's look at some of these performances. Erik on the hitting side had a really good week from Ohtani, who scored 6 runs, hit 3 homers, drove in 7 runs, stole 2 bases. Also had a nearly identical week from Brent Rooker, who had an extra double, but stole 1 fewer base and had fewer plate appearances. But the stats look nearly identical between the two of them. Um, Great week for Esteury Ruiz, 3 for 10 in Erik's lineup with a steal. Jose Caballero had a good on base. Pitching wise, was a bit of a struggle. Had a rough start from Fetty. Ronaldo Lopez, not a great start, but has been fantastic to start the year. Um, but other guys, Tyler Glasnow, brilliant start. Jack Flaherty, um, absolutely tore up his old team. The Cardinals, 14 Ks and 6 2/3. George Kirby looked good, but he's not really striking guys out for the most part. Cole Reagans continues to be good. So some good pitching performances, some bad ones from guys like Edward Cabrera. I got to give it to Ohtani though. I mean, what a week for that offense, and he really needed uh, every every run, every double, every homer to complete this comeback.
Yeah, Ohtani is just, I mean, smacking the ball. I mean, he looks like an MVP hitter. Like he has been the past couple of years. The Orioles broadcaster is an interesting point. While kind of bored during this Reds blowout here. Um, is Ohtani eventually, sooner rather than later, just gonna hit um, and not pitch? And if he keeps hitting like this, and if he keeps having arm injuries, like man, maybe he should just hit, pop him in a outfield corner and just let him do his thing.
Yes, I don't know about sooner rather than later, but I think he's kind of more long term a hitter than a pitcher.
Yeah, I think so too. I would say like that's a conversation we'd be having like in 5 years, not
Mm.
now. But I don't think he's gonna end that contract pitching. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, but man, what a great week for him. Looking at Andrew's team, yeah, we mentioned the pitching letting him down, particularly on on Sunday, but also um, really yeah, Reed Detmers made a rough start. Tanner Bybee didn't pitch the best. Ryan Feltner, Andrew um, streamed Ryan Feltner on Saturday to not much success. Bailey faltered. The hitting was one of the better hitting performances. And his 369 on base percentage was the nicest of any team this week. He's rostering Luis Rengifo. Good for him. I've always liked Luis Rengifo. Um,
I think he traded for him actually.
He did, yeah, that's what I'm seeing here back in April. But yeah, the pitching kind of cost it for Andrew, and it was really Erik bats down the stretch.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Erik now 3-2-1. Andrew, after starting the season 4-0, was now dropped out of first place. He is now 4-2 behind me and Anthony.
Yeah, he's in a three-way tie with me and EBO. I know I've got a head-to-head win over EBO, but a loss to Andrew. Um, Andrew has a win over me and EBO, and I guess EBO has lost to both. So I guess that would put Andrew 3, me 4, and EBO 5.
Yeah, it sure looks that way.
But yeah, let's move on to the other one that there were three close matchups and three not close matchups. Let's move on to the third close one. Ruthvik clutched it out against Yuki in a matchup that, you know, I was so bold as to pick Yuki to win, thinking he plays to the level of his competition, and he really played to the level excuse me, really played to the level of his competition this week, but just quite couldn't pull it out.
Yeah, no, he played very well. He certainly had an opportunity to win it there at the end, or tie it there at the end, I should say. Bryce Harper just needed to drive in a couple runs on that Sunday night game. But he played pretty well on the whole. I think the pitching came together nicely. 4.22 ERA, 114 WHIP isn't amazing, but certainly solid enough. Five quality starts, two saves, four holds, 71 Ks, decent enough. On the hitting side, he was neck and neck with Ruthvik in pretty much every hitting category. Maybe a bit of a little bit of a kind of discrepancy there in doubles, but he hung in there most of the week. He does drop to 2-4, but he played a lot better than he did last week when he lost to Conor. So kudos to Yuki for kind of showing up this week. Ruthvik, on the other hand, decent offensive week, kind of given the landscape. Nothing too special, but he had seven quality starts. It says eight on the ESPN, but he accidentally started a 13th pitcher, so we can't count that. 76 strikeouts when you get rid of Christian Scott's strikeouts. Sure, Ruthvik is excited that he's debuted. The ERA and WHIP are on the high side, despite that, which is kind of interesting. But despite eight quality starts out of or seven quality starts out of 12, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, Ruthvik had some good pitching performances from Jameson Tyone, who had two quality starts, although the Ks were a little bit low for me to give him matchup MVP, and pitching stats weren't close enough for me to uh, feel like it. I had a good start from Jose Butto and Jose Barrios as well, who was pitcher of the month in April. I had no idea he was having such a good season to start out. Um, but some rough performances as well. Trevor Rogers gave up 11 earned runs this week. Oh, he was the guy who started in that game against Oakland. Gotcha. Like Aaron Savali had a rough go of it. Logan Webb was beat up on Sunday night. So not the best pitching for most of these guys. Yeah, hitting he did just enough. Stephen Kwan had a 619 on base percentage this week. Um, Very good week for Jeremy Pena. Rafael Devers hit three doubles. I think I'm going to give matchup MVP to Christian Walker. The on base was a little bit lower than Devers, but he had an extra homer, an extra run, an extra ribby, extra couple runs, and yeah, he has proven to be, just who we thought he was going into this year, and a really good get from Erik's team.
Yeah, I still don't get why Erik traded him away. I get the whole 1 year earlier, or rather do it 1 year too early than 1 year too late, but man, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. Christian Walker joins Shohei Ohtani and several other guys as four-time matchup MVP. So good for uh yeah, good for him. I know Christian Walker gave me fits all of last year on when he was on Eric's team.
That he did. That he did indeed. Um, all right. Anything else you want to say about this matchup, or do we want to move on to the next one?
All right, moving on. Let's talk about a matchup that we've teased a little bit um, earlier in the episode. Conor, after pulling off his first win of the season, putting together a historically bad offensive week, a 2.389 on base percentage, with just 17 runs, four doubles, four homers. It was rough out there, and EBO, despite not having the best pitching week, took advantage and pulled out an easy win.
Yeah. I'm kind of surprised EVO didn't 12-0 them. They were 12-0ing Connor early in the week, but the pitching kind of let EVO down a little bit. Um, it's no surprise that EVO came away dominant offensively here, winning all six categories. On the pitch side, it was actually kind of close in a lot of the categories, and I don't think too much would have had to change for this to be a pitcher or the hitter. Um, for those of you who don't know or remember, it's one team wins all the hitting categories and the other team wins all the pitching categories. And I wonder if Connor did some streaming that could have changed that, but yeah, dominant week from EVO. So okay, so Conor left a quality start from Paddock on his bench. I'm not gonna lay this all out here. He did leave a quality start from Paddock on his bench. I would have tie quality starts, but there's still some more that would have had to happen for it to be a pitcher and a hitter. But yeah, as it stands, EVO wins again. They are now 4-2. With big win over Ruthvik. They're kind of beating the teams they need to beat.
They are, yeah, they're really, yeah, remaining right in that playoff push. Like we mentioned, they're currently in that fifth spot. Um, 9-2-1 victory. The pitching wasn't the best, although they got a very good start from Yamamoto. They got um, good start from Michael Lorenzen, although Carlos Rodon didn't look great. Mackenzie Gore wasn't the best. Um, Craig Kimbrell kind of struggled a little bit. Casey Mize, and Matt Manning, not really having the best starts this week either. Hitting though, they were one of the better hitting teams, I would say. Good week from Jake Cronenworth. Um, a good week, uh, at least in the stolen base and run scoring front from CJ Abrams, although he had a low on base. Pretty good week from my guy Willie Castro. Um, I gotta say Riley Green though has got to be matchup MVP for them. Another Tiger leading this EBO team. He had three homers this week with a great on base percentage. Scored four runs. Playing good week against the Yankees too, so not against crappy teams. Um is this right? Is he really the number one ranked outfielder on the player rater?
Shit, I didn't know. I know he's been having a good season, but I didn't know that.
No, he is not the number one outfielder. I don't know why it said that. He is eighth among outfield eligible people.
Well, so I think outfield like technically splits into left, center, and right, but doesn't show it as left, center, and right because we don't have those as individual positions.
Gotcha.
Uh, so there's a lot of people who will show up as number one, even though they're not. But he is having an I see he has a 170 WRC plus.
God damn.
Walker is double what it was last year. And after having 11 home runs and 416 plate appearances last year, he already has eight in 142 plate appearances this year. So um, uh, maybe the breakouts finally here. It's not looking that way for Torkelson, unfortunately, but
No,
yeah.
Torkelson has yet to homer this year. After maybe him and Riley Green had some sort of weird body switch. I don't know, but yeah, I was here for the Torkelson breakout last year, and it has not followed through. And now I'm here for the Riley Green breakout this year, and hopefully that continues into the future.
Yeah, God, what Torkelson? Let me pull up his numbers quickly. He's a 62 WRC plus. Oof.
Brutal.
Yeah, it's brutal out there. And he did hit 31 home runs last year. Just didn't really get on base too much. Yeah, so I have trust issues with prospects.
Message from Yuki. Fuck, if I didn't accidentally bench Luis Arias yesterday, I could have won. Can we fact check that? Would that have been um would that have been enough?
Uh, okay, so I don't, it definitely wouldn't have flipped OBP, but he had a single RBI and a double. No, uh, um, he is correct.
Well, it's the thought that counts. Um, but yeah, not quite. But a team that did quite win was EBO. Great week for them. Any other thoughts on this matchup other than to say, man, Conor, 3 for 20 from Eloy, 1 for 8 from Adam Duvall, 3 for 20 from Benintendi after his 10 RBI week. 2 for 19 from Bo Naylor, 3 for 19 from Hoskins, 2 for 17 from Jorge Soler. Just not a one good offensive performance. Everyone just kind of uh, just slumped at the same time.
Uh, Yeah, yeah, it's
There was only one player with more than 8 plate appearances and an on base percentage above 200, and that was Eugenio Suarez, whose on base was 261.
I mean, his Luis Roberts on the IL, right? And Byron Buxton's on the IL. Not that Buxton have been great to start the year. Jake Berger's on the IL, right? So it's like that's three of his better bats. Moncada's on the IL. It's brutal for him out there.
Yeah, the White
Uh,
Sox even won 2 games this week, so it's not like um, they won a series against in St. Louis.
can we talk about that game on Saturday quickly? How wild it was that there was a 3 hour rain delay, and after the rain delay, exactly one batter that got out, and that ended the game.
And
Like
it was a
I saw it.
really bad strike. It was a pitch like 2 feet outside, and CB Buckner called it a strike to go home.
Well, there's your answer. It's CB Buckner, but I mean, I saw that the like a clip of John Brevia trying to like keep the ball dry, and it's like literally looking like he's just like itching all over his crotch trying to keep the ball dry, and I'm like, shit, like that's just brutal for everybody involved. But yeah, I got nothing else in this matchup. If we want to move on.
No, let's do it. Where do we want to go next?
Uh, so there's two more. There's yours and Anthony. Let's talk about you. Your matchup was kind of interesting to me because it looked like at like a point on Friday or Saturday that like I still expected you to win, but Daniel and Matt were keeping it pretty close. Um, but and ultimately, if you look at kind of the difference in some of these categories, it did keep it relatively close. Only lost steals by one. 10 OBP points was the difference there. Down one quality start, 7 Ks, 2 saves. So like they kept it close in some of these categories, but you had a nice offensive explosion, probably the best offensive week of just about anybody. And you pitched well enough to pull out a 9-3 win. So I'll let you talk about your matchup.
Yeah, so first and foremost, the Drury would have tied Jake this week. So um great week for them. They held it close all week, but I kind of pulled away over the weekend and they kind of fought back. We were both at like 270 on base percentages for most of the week. And then we both had really strong hitting weekends. They were Saturday, they were 420 and I was 411 on base percentage. And Sunday um they were 400 and I was 403. So fantastic. We kind of mirrored each other in on base percentage all week, and I was just a cut above them. Um, they had good hitting performances from guys like Jerkson Profar, who absolutely murdered the Reds this week. Wensiel Perez, I guess, is rostered, and he hit a couple of homers this week. Um, Bryson Stott had a good week. So shout out to them. They pitched decently as well. Um, getting a getting that Luis Severino start where he had a no hitter into the seventh or eighth or whatever. Although he got blown up a bit on Sunday. As for me, yeah, I was maybe me and EBO are the only two teams that could say they had like a legitimately good hitting week. Um, and my on base percentage was a little bit low, but I drove in 49 runs. I had a really solid week from Brandon Nimmo. Um, solid week from Taylor Ward. Zach Neto is kind of hitting his way into my lineup. Um, Vlad had a good week. I know you're sending me a lot of anti-Vlad propaganda, but he hit the ball well this week. He's got an 8-game hitting streak, um, and he homered on Sunday. Um, on the pitching side, not my best week. Jordan Montgomery got beat around. Framber was pitching well and then kind of got blown up in the sixth. Um, Tanner Houck um, finished off the quality. Oh, he originally Darvished, but I guess they called one of the runs back as unearned, and he retroactively got the quality start. So good for Tanner Houck. Um, Clay Holmes continues to carry my bullpen, although Hector Neris got 3 saves as well. Um, Paul Blackburn had a nice rebound start against the Marlins. Yusei Kikuchi looks good. Jose Leclerc has quietly not given up a run since the 9th of April. He's not really getting holds yet, but he is pitching well. Matchup MVP though has got to be to the guy who hit 3 homers in a game for me, Max Muncy. He didn't play a ton this week. He got quite a few days off, but that 3-homer game was just really a spark plug for my offense. And he had a 467 OBP for the week as well.
Yeah, he's been sitting more and more against lefties recently, but I mean, he just crushes righties. So, I mean, it's interesting because he doesn't really have big platoon splits throughout his career, although it was a little pronounced last year, as an aside. But yeah, I mean, awesome week for him. The trade's still looking like a win-win.
Still looking like a win-win. Yeah, very happy to see that. One final shout out on my team for Alec Boehm, who continued his hot start to the season, drove in 6 runs with 375 OBP.
Yeah, Boehm has certainly been nice. So with Trey Turner out, Phillies need all the offense they can get.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else about my matchup that you want to talk about?
Uh, no. I will say as an aside, I think it's funny that I feel like every other day you and I bring up the Max Muncy for Sonny Gray trade in some capacity.
No, it's been a win-win, and we're a little bit. It seems like we're trying to convince ourselves that it's a win-win.
Yeah.
Um, we're both like kind of like, hey, is this a win-win? It's one that we were very. It feels too good to be true for both of us.
It does. I needed exactly what Gray's given me, and you needed exactly what Muncy's given you.
Yeah, no, it's weird. It feels too perfect.
It does, and nothing ever goes perfect in this league. So,
No, well,
like,
maybe we'll get a big Muncie and Gray matchup in the finals.
oh God, that'd be awesome. I wonder if one of the Cardinals and the Dodgers play. I'm gonna search that up quickly while we discuss this next matchup here. But there was one last matchup for us to discuss, and that is Anna beating Alex and Zach. He moves to 9-2 and one, or it's a 9-2-1 win, so he moves to 4-1-1 with the Andrew loss. He is now in first place overall, and pretty solid offensive week for him. 16 home runs, led the league this week. He tied his stolen base record with 13. 279 OBP with all that just feels so out of place, but kind of one of those, hey, when he got hits, they did a lot of damage types of weeks. And a pretty solid pitching week. 3.12 ERA, 0.98 whip, five quality starts, five holds, 73 strikeouts. Like, I'll certainly take that. Alex actually pitched pretty well, but did not do anything hitting wise. And I think that's kind of been a story of Alex's team this season is they come away really impressed with the pitching. The quantity of the pitching is not there, but the quality is, and he's just not really hitting. So, and he also lost Wyatt Langford to a hamstring injury. So, kind of a tough loss for him there.
Not as tough
Uh,
of a loss as Anthony suffered this week, though, with Mike Trout being out for a while.
Yeah, that one's just a huge bummer. I'm curious at some point, right? Is I know he's insisted he's going to keep Mike Trout, but at some point do you kind of just go like, hey, like he's hurt all the time, you know, can I get a younger piece? Like I just wonder if it's time. Like, and I feel like a contending team who's like, hey, he's like my outfield 3 or 4 is more equipped to kind of handle Trout playing like 100 games a year than Anthony's team where Trout is probably his best offensive player.
Yeah, and that'll definitely be interesting to see. Anthony, either way though, just kind of every couple of years puts together, just kind of goes on a run like this. He's currently in first place. His team's looking great. Willie Adamez's week kind of sums up how his team played. A lot of homers, a lot of RBIs, a lot of steals, and a 231 on base. Um, just really how his team performed on the whole. Good week for Josh H. Smith, who's really been a big part of this Rangers lineup. Off to a very good start this season. I picked him up in Gallardo. Um, Good week for guys that you don't like. Davis Schneider and Christopher Morel both had good weeks. Christopher Morel is going to be matchup MVP. I mean, he hit the cover off the ball this week. 414 on base, 9 ribbies, 6 walks, 4 homers, a couple of steals as well. So just a fantastic week for him. Um, and as I'm looking at this, it was a big pitching week, and yet I gave 6 hitters matchup MVP. So maybe I can reevaluate that. One of the hitters was also Shohei Ohtani, to be fair. Um, but yeah, 6 hitters got matchup MVP in a week that pitching dominated. And as far as pitching dominating for Anthony, he had um, 2 solid starts from Freddie Peralta. Um, uh, Good bullpen performance from Hunter Harvey. Good start for Gavin Stone, who's having a good start to the year. Good start for Quinn Priester. Um, Garrett Crochet had 1 good start and 1 not so good start. Bryce Miller had 1 good start and 1 not so good start. Um, and Anthony's 4-1-1.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting here, right? So he does if you're just kind of looking at his results so far, right? He does have wins over Daniel, Matt, Connor, and Alex and Zach now, all pretty convincing wins, all what you would expect. And he's 1-1-1 against me and Andrew and Erik. And he is going to have a tough test against me this coming week. Um, Actually, anything else that you want to say about this matchup? Because if not, this
No,
is a
yeah,
transition.
I think that's everything.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect transition to our matchup of the week. Um, Me versus Anthony, battle of 2 4-1-1 teams. Anthony did beat me in the stub week 1. If he's able to beat me again and have 2 wins over me, a tie to Erik and a loss to Andrew, in addition to his 3 wins kind of against the bottom of the league here, like maybe we're looking at a serious contender that was kind of been falling under the radar. Or flying under the radar, I should say. So I'm really curious to see how he does this week. I certainly think he's going to be a tough out. At the same time, I've won four straight, longest win streak in the league here. I've kind of bounced back from that week one loss to Anthony, having lost since, although there is a tie to Alex in there. And one of us is going to be the sole possession of first place after this week. So
Yeah.
um, it's going to
No,
be
absolutely.
a fun one for sure. With a shout out as well, I want to give to um, next week. Where is it? Jake versus EBO. Um, EBO actually has a better record than Jake. They are 4-2. EBO's 3-2-1. Or Jake is 3-2-1. EBO's 4-2. EBO's played pretty well the last 2 weeks. Um, I've come away pretty impressed with how they've played recently. Uh, whereas Jake is dealing with a lot of injuries. I mean, that rotation now, I mean, I swear there's a new injury every week. He's playing with two IL players on his active roster. And okay, so it's Luis Castillo, Kevin Gosman, Cutter Crawford, and then his fourth starter is Ben Lively. So it's a little rough out there for him, but he is kind of making a lot with a little right now. So I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park for EBO by any stretch. But vice versa too. I don't think EBO is someone that Jake can look over.
No, absolutely. And speaking of which teams we think will be overlooked by other teams, do we want to pick these matchups?
I think we should. Before we pick them, let's go over last week's pick 'em. Let me pull up our sheet of wonders. Uh, Here we go. Okay. Pretty good pick 'em weeks for both of us. We both picked me to beat Jake. We were correct. We both picked you to beat Daniel and Matt. We were correct. Both picked EBO to beat Connor. We were correct. And both picked Anthony to beat Alex and Zach. We were correct. You picked Yuki to beat Ruthvik. I picked Ruthvik, so I won that. But you picked Erik to beat Andrew. I picked Andrew, so you win on that front. That makes me 21, 8, and 7 in the pick'em. You are 21, 9, and 6, which means for the second consecutive week, I picked first again. So it's been a hot sec since I have been the one picking first. But
All right.
all right, here we go. I let's see, start with one of the easy ones here. I think you're going to beat Connor for obvious reasons. I think Eric's going to beat Alex and Zach. Um, Although I'm really curious to see how that pitching matchup kind of comes out. I think Andrew's going to beat Yuki. I think he'll bounce back after 2 rough weeks. And I think Ruthvik is going to beat Daniel and Matt. And then I think it becomes a little more interesting. I think I'm going to get my revenge on Anthony from week one. I think my team is a lot healthier on the pitching side than it was when I played Anthony week one. Plus, I think Christian Yelich is going to be back sometime next week, and Seiya Suzuki is going to start a rehab assignment. So hopefully that helps my lineup. As for Jake and EBO, I'm gonna pick EBO. I'm feeling good about how EBO is playing right now. Um, as I said, kind of at the top of the podcast, I am genuinely impressed with how Jake is managing this team right now. But I just, at some point, it's just you got some limitations with the injuries, and there's only so much you could do. And I think EBO is just kind of rolling right now. So I'm gonna give it to EBO here.
All right. Um, I am going to pick myself to beat Connor. I am in the midst of my easy stretch of the season, but I feel like I'm, not making any mistakes, um, which is all you can do. I think, I think Erik is going to beat Alex. I think Andrew is going to beat Yuki. Although, Yuki, he likes to make things close. I think Ruthvik will drop the jury to 0-7. I think that you will beat Anthony to improve to uh, first place in sole possession. And I was fully prepared to pick EBO over Jake, but I got to pick something different from you to have any hope of moving up in the standings. So I'll take Jake.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't think it's a bad pick at all. I think that's going to be our closest matchup of the week, and would not even be surprised if that's a tie. But yeah, we shall see.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, Good week ahead of us for sure. And one of these matchups that we're not expecting to be close will probably be close. That's how it always goes.
Absolutely. Fun fact I just realized your pick'em record through 6 weeks this year is exactly identical to your pick'em record through 6 weeks last year.
Hey, what can I say? I'm consistent.
Yeah, that you are. I'm having a much better pick'em season than I had last year up until this point, but
What's your secret?
oh, I can't tell you.
Okay.
Uh week 6 last year, I picked um you play Yuki. I picked Yuki to win, and you picked yourself to win, and you won. So um maybe that's it. Maybe less picking of Yuki is doing me better here.
Less picking of Yuki. I think that's the key, isn't it?
That's always the key. Poor Yuki. We love
Yeah.
you. All right. Anything else you would like to say before we wrap this one up?
No, that is all I had. Congrats to Greg on his graduation for the second time for Michigan. Congrats to Yuki on finishing up his finals. And yeah, congrats to us on making it through April, I suppose.
Yeah, we are 1 month through the baseball season. It's hard to believe. Um, it will be an exciting month of May for baseball, I am sure.
I am sure. But yeah, till next time, it's been a good one, and we'll see you next week.
Yep. See you next week.
In the middle lane, feeling good, feeling great, shaking bacon. I'm a daredevil, yeah, I feel amazing. 239 till I die, man, it's fuck the fame. I'm a Florida boy, baby, I'ma stay the same. In my hood, I hold weight, can't be flaking. I stay busy on my grind, money making.
You have to stop.
Oh, no, I keep forgetting.
Yeah. No, you're good.